This is the EVP Podcast.
For all of you that are listening to the podcast, welcome. For those that can see us, you can see DVO's creepy serial killer smile right now.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of the EVP Podcast. I'm Beaker.
I'm DVO.
And I'm Ghosty.
And yeah, sorry we missed last week. We had a special guest lined up, and it due to scheduling conflicts, we were unable to have them on. We're going to try to get that person on again in the future. It was going to be an exciting episode. But,
Yes. He said he will come back. He just had some personal things he had to deal with.
So, yeah. Sorry we missed a week. We're going to keep trying to bring you a new episode every week.
We can be better, guys. We can be better.
We are better than that. It was poor planning on my part because I didn't have a backup topic either. So we decided instead of recording to watch TV instead.
Yes.
But not just any TV.
It's the best way to procrastinate.
We did Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
it was Discovery Plus and chill.
Ghosty went skiing.
So?
Yeah. Did you cancel your Discovery Plus?
No, not yet.
You should do
kept
that.
it?
You're gonna.
Well, I
You're gonna
wait
start
one more
paying,
day.
like, was it no?
I got one more day.
Today's
One
the
more
last
day.
day.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's
if you
the day.
want to
You're
Yep.
gonna be paying
the free
$7.
7-day trial.
Yeah, $7 a month or something.
Yeah, for Discovery Channel,
I don't know. Is there if there's like good shows on it, might be worth it.
it's not.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's so not worth it.
So
Okay,
no,
but this is a good critique for the listeners if they thought, I've been thinking about getting Discovery Plus because of a lot of the paranormal shows. Now you've had it for about a week. Have you been playing with it?
I would say that it is beneficial if you don't have any type of cable subscription or satellite subscription of any
Okay.
kind. But because my internet comes with the channels,
Right.
it pretty much is everything that's on Discovery Channel and on Travel Channel.
Okay.
So, I mean, there might be a couple other shows that are exclusively on Discovery Plus, but I think eventually they'll end up on Travel or Discovery.
So maybe not the worth paying the $5 to $7 a month.
Not if you already have some type of a subscription to cable or to Travel and Discovery.
Because like $5 for ads and $7 for like no ads, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
A
So
month.
unless you're like really wanting to get the episodes, my alarm's going off. Yay!
Time
it's
to wake up.
Time to wake up.
Wake up.
Yeah. So normally we record at like 11:30 midnight on Sundays. We're doing this 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I'm surprised I'm actually here because I normally
Would have been dead.
My 9:30 alarm just went off, so it's time for me to wake up. And these guys are like, "You fool! We're up so like at 5 in the morning every morning."
So yes, well, Sunday's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Yes, and then there's me.
And then there's Beaker, and so we thought, well, we just did a fun little event last night. Let's do the podcast while it's fresh in our brains.
Yeah, because tomorrow we'd forget everything.
Yes.
That's how awesome.
I'm already losing you now.
Yeah.
What happened last night?
I don't know. We talked to ghosts.
Okay.
So, in preparation for this episode, we did something stupid. Spontaneous, yes. Discovery Plus free trial, so we could watch Ghost Adventurers. It's as exciting as I'm making it sound. No, so we watched the episode of Benson Grist Mill.
Why did we choose that episode?
That's where we were going.
We were tired. No, because that's where we went last night. We went to Benson Grist Mill.
Thanks to Beaker for reserving the place for us. Appreciate that.
Yes, and I reserved it again in the end of September.
All right.
I think we had a lot of fun. I do this every year, and this was our first official paranormal potluck, is what I call it, as EVP, and we'll be doing it again in September.
Turned out pretty damn good.
Yeah, it was. We had
Food
so
was
many
so
people.
good.
The food was amazing.
Tons of food left too.
Yeah, it was. I was overwhelmed with the positive energy with everyone that was there. It was just like, I don't know, for the people that were there and saw me, I literally was like walking around with a big smile on my face the entire night because I was
It's like, I love you guys.
pretty much. I was
Yeah,
like
crying,
I was
yeah.
like sober drunk.
tears.
I was like that sober drunk guy that's just like, I love you, man. Literally walking around giving everybody hugs. And I think it was just, a lot of it was because you didn't get to see a whole lot of people last year with the pandemic, and everyone just like
Yep,
taking
true.
precautions. And now that here in Utah, it's been about 2 months since they got rid of the mask mandate, and they've started opening things up more and more. Finally, actually got to be able to see people that we haven't seen in over a year.
I call that space of time during the shutdown the blip.
The blip.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like it didn't even happen.
Just everyone snapped back into existence.
Back to normal.
I saw this meme the other day. It's like, because when the blip happened, Endgame spoilers. Sorry, people just reappeared back to where they
Yes.
vanished. Right. So there was like people reappearing like where their airplane was in the sky at the time.
That's right. It's
So,
hilarious.
Just think about that.
Oh.
Like, say someone was flying, right?
Yeah.
And they blipped out of existence. Obviously, the airplane is not going to still be in that exact same spot 5 years
Yes.
later. So if you blip back into existence while your airplane is no longer there, you're now
'Cause
just like,
I'm
hey, I'm back.
free
Oh.
falling.
What if they blipped into the plane though?
I think that's where you were.
Location?
That's the rules.
Is it location,
It's location.
or inside? Oh, damn. Yeah, because what if the building's not even there no more, and you were inside of a building when? Oh, damn. So many factors, right?
Yeah.
So many factors.
So, and that has to do with Benson Grist Mill.
I want, as a foodie, I want to make people jealous. So we had candy bacon.
Oh my
We had
gosh.
tri-tip steak. We had bacon covered dates stuffed with goat cheese.
Okay, so I believe that was Ghosty's friend that made those.
Yeah.
Tell her thank you. Everyone loved those.
They were gone.
I heard so many people raving about those.
Oh, you didn't get one?
I got one. I got the
Okay,
last. I took
okay.
the second to last one.
Okay, good.
So
I saw
I
you
got
had a
one.
little container of bacon all to
Yeah,
yourself.
someone made me our Dave that was actually on one of our
Yes,
earlier
our special
episodes.
guest.
He made a bunch of candied bacon and he brought me my own little container, which it's in my car right now. I forgot that I had it, but it's still good because it's candied
Good,
bacon.
I'll go eat some then.
Yeah, so much food.
Cookies, fruity pebble treats. Oh my goodness, so much good
Whiny
stuff.
dog. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so much good stuff. It was so fun. It was great to see everybody. And I think at one point I counted, and we had a host from 7 different podcasts there. So
Oh.
apparently we're friends with a lot of podcasters. And I do count your guys' other podcasts as one of the. I mean, technically, if you count your third podcast, we'd had like
yeah.
8 shows there. So we had. I'm just going to give a couple shout outs real quick.
Yeah.
So
We ain't
first off-
haters on this episode,
So-
on our podcast.
No, we're not. So first off, obviously, Bucco Boys, they were there. The when I'm not around, they're the Bucco Boys. When I'm around, they're Bucco Boys plus the weird ginger.
The wild
ginger. Sorry. Then we also had Kent from Bacon Cell. Love that podcast. If you guys haven't listened to it, you definitely should. I think they're.
Is that who you were investigating with?
Yeah, that's who I was with all
Okay,
night. So
okay.
I know Kent he used to be on another podcast, and him and the other people that were hosts of that show, they used to run public investigations. And when we were with the other team before I started running public investigations, we would go staff their events. And so I've been at several investigations with Kent, but never actually got to investigate with him. So that's kind of where I disappeared to last night. I was so excited he was there.
The other two of you were in the basement all
Sucking
alone.
face.
Yeah, and Jess was there too. She saw the whole thing go down.
She was
No.
recording it all.
So I was stoked he was there, and this is my first chance in like the 5 or 6 years that I've known him to actually, maybe even 7 years, that I actually had a chance to investigate with him. So I just followed him around all night, and we investigated, the 3 of us, him, Jess, and I, and we had a lot of experiences. We'll get into that later. So yeah, Bacon Cell. They call it the Hickory Smoked Pop Culture Podcast or something like that. They talk about all sorts of things.
That's kinda
so
funny.
Kent is actually a movie critic, and he's got his website ShowtimeShowdown.com where he reviews movies. And then Joel, who unfortunately couldn't make it last night because he had other stuff going on, he's a comedian and he does like Quick Wits and Murray. So every now and then he goes and participates in that. Like it's improv comedy.
What does he look like?
Short, hair, face.
Legs, arms.
Eyes in the
Torso.
same
What was he
place.
wearing?
Symmetrical face.
Torso. Probably had shoes at one point.
What was he wearing?
He wasn't there
there
last night. He was emceeing another event.
You just want to randomly know what people look like?
I thought you were talking about somebody else that was there.
No, he unfortunately couldn't make it. But so he's an improv comic, and those two they got together and started a podcast. It's actually really entertaining. So some of the stuff they talk about is fascinating. I think their last episode they did was on different jingles, like TV spots, like that throughout the years, like mainly 80s and 90s and stuff like that. So it's an interesting podcast. I really enjoy it. Check it out. We also had our friend Shane and another one of his teammates, Diana, were there. Shane runs Bear River Paranormal out of Logan, Utah, and he runs the Bear River Paranormal podcast. So it's another paranormal podcast. If you enjoy our show, you'll enjoy their show. They talk about their adventures in the paranormal, just like we do. And everyone's going to have different experiences and different beliefs. So I recommend listening to as many paranormal podcasts as you can and get all the information that, and just it's always fun to hear other people's perspectives on the paranormal and their experiences. There was also the Raymonds and the Finleys were there last night, and they are on the Paranormal Peeps podcast, which is another good paranormal podcast to listen to. They also do the same thing. They talk about different paranormal stuff and their experiences and adventures in the paranormal. We had Greg was there from Greg's Guide to New Music. He goes and finds like obscure music that you normally wouldn't find and plays it for you. And he talks a little bit about the history of the song or the band or whatever. It's usually like he finds music that he really enjoys and hopes everybody else will enjoy it. So that's what he does. And then who else was there? We had Laura from Plot Twist Media was there, and I think that was about it. There was a lot.
At one point, we're gonna do a Royal Rumble because there's going to be one number one.
There
podcast.
can be only one. So yeah, we had a pretty good turnout. We had 20+ people last night.
Yeah,
and which is fine for a venue like Benson Grist Mill because this place is huge. So many buildings to investigate. It's so easy to once we started investigating, I didn't see you guys the rest of the night.
No.
Until like 12:30, we're like, should we record? And I'm just like, we have a half an hour. No, probably not.
It was hot as hell last night.
It was hot as hell.
And we had our special guest, Dave and Lurch, were there as well.
Yes, Lurch was there. Brandy was there.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
Caden
was there. And a bunch
Lisa.
of people that have... Lisa, she used to be on the other team with us. She's also part of the Paranormal Peeps. She's on their podcast every now and then as well. And a bunch of people that have listened to me and some of the other podcasts over the years. So, yeah, it was a great turnout. A lot of good food. A lot of good fun.
and we had some cool experiences.
We did. I did. And you guys did. I don't know what you guys... Anything that happened to you guys, this is going to be the first time I'm hearing it, so...
That's right. That's why we do it fresh, so don't forget.
Should we talk about the Ghost Adventures stuff first, or?
Yeah, or we can kind of go back and forth, kind of compare. I wrote some of my notes down too, but yeah.
Bicycle.
Yeah. I want to ride my bicycle.
So, Ghost Adventures, those guys are weird. I felt dirty
Or
watching
how about
that
some,
show.
you want to get some history about the mill?
Yeah, they milled
The
stuff.
grist.
They gristed the mills.
Benson Grist. Benson Grist. It was named after Ezra Taft Benson. Mm-hmm. One of the former leaders of the church a long time ago.
Of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yes.
So his family owned this grist mill, apparently.
And they milled grist.
Yeah. What is grist?
I have no idea.
I think it's ground up wheat or something.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I looked at one time. Me and Ghost were talking about. I'm like, what is grist? So I looked it up. Yeah, it's basically almost like making flour. I guess.
Yeah,
kind of
so it's like
grinding up.
wheat to make flour.
Yeah, and so they have a big wind or a water mill, big water mill. I guess that kind of powered it up. Now, being in there, it was about 90 degrees. Back in the old days, they didn't have air conditioning. Still no air conditioning in these buildings. I don't know how they could work in those buildings.
On the second floor, when I was investigating, my EMF meter has a thermometer on it, and it was 87 when we started, and it got up to 89 in the second floor. Of course, this was also like 11 o'clock at night, so it had cooled down a little bit.
It was so damn hot.
It was.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about. How do these people work in these conditions?
Fans.
There's no fans back then.
Oh, damn, you're right.
In the 1800s? They have people standing outside going, "Yay, good job!"
Those fans
doing the wave.
Yeah, it must have been hot. Ugh. Ugh. And is there any record of anyone dying in those mills from working? Because those are some big ass machinery.
I don't know. I've never seen anything.
Nothing on record, right?
No.
Anyway.
I didn't read a plaque that said that. I'm not as talented as Zach.
So yeah, we can talk about the mill first. 4 stories? Is it 4 stories? So
yes.
3 with a basement, but
three
four
with the basement.
Yeah, 4 total. Down in the basement is pretty cramped down there. But there's a panel that gives off a lot of EMF, so it's kind of hard to do any type of readings down in the basement.
The whole grounds is just pumping out EMF like crazy.
Yeah, there's like a huge transformer right across in the parking lot.
And then they have wires buried underground. You can almost follow the wires with the KT.
Yeah, pretty much run straight down the middle of the ground.
Why they just put in the drywall? I don't know why they just put in the drywall. Should have just done that.
Instead of running it through the ground to the building, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just put drywall
crazy.
out there. What?
They need to dig it up and put
Drywall.
drywall. Drywall.
Redo the whole building.
Because we
Just
know
kidding.
drywall stops EMF.
So in the mill on Ghost Adventures, they got an EVP. What were they using? Were they using SB7 or are they just doing EVP blast?
At that point, if it's the one that you have on the top of your notes there, they were just talking. They just had a digital recorder going.
Yeah, digital recorder did the EVP blast, which is
Yeah,
they record and then just replay it real quick. And
they were doing a quick little EVP session.
And they think they heard the word bicycle.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that either.
No, it was funny because when we were watching it, you hear them ask, does anyone want to talk to us? And instantly, like, it kind of pops in my head, like the spirits are like, no. And then they're like, oh, it said bicycle, and I'm just like, it's not. I don't think so.
I didn't think it said that either. Here's the problem too. Once they say what they think they heard, now you hear it all the time, right? When they replay, you're like, okay, I hear it now. But.
That's the problem I have. That's like when we've played a couple of podcasts, EVPs on this podcast. We don't tell you what we think we heard.
Yeah, we try to play like 3 or 4 times first for you to try to determine, and then we say what we think we hear.
Yeah, they just played it and they're like, it said bicycle. Everyone here, it said bicycle. It's like, I don't know. I was talking to someone last night, and to me, this makes more sense. But to them, they said it sounds like the spirit said, I suppose.
Okay.
Do you want to talk to us? I suppose.
Interesting.
Bicycle.
Okay.
Bicycle. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think it said bicycle. And they ran with that. They're like, did you ride a bike here? Did you die riding a bike? Like, stuff like that. They didn't actually say that, but they hear it and they just go off and they act like little kids. And, oh, it said bicycle. Which, I mean, I would probably do the same thing too if I heard an EVP. I get excited. I'm like, oh, you guys have to listen to this. But yeah, I don't think it said bicycle.
It's intelligent. Also, they did have SB7, and they
some
think
weird modified version of an SB7.
Yeah,
because it was cutting out the like the white noise and just picking up the voices.
Yeah, which is kind of cool if they really were able to do that. It's actually very cool because that white noise sweeping,
It's annoying and loud.
Yes. So they think they got the sentence. I was thinking about it, and then a little kid voice, which they couldn't determine what that said. So, I was thinking about it, and then a kid's voice. So I can't. Did you hear that? I was thinking about it, or that's what came up right on the SB7. Maybe you want to tell someone what the SB7 is?
The SB7 Spirit Box is basically a device that sweeps through AM or FM frequencies. You can have it run forward, so like, starting at 89 point whatever, going up to 107.9 or whatever.
On AM or FM?
On AM or FM. Sweep forward, just sweep backwards, so it's running backwards to the stations from the highest station to the lowest station. You can adjust the speed on how fast it cycles. And basically it's just creating a static, like, white noise that spirits can tap into that white noise that you're creating and talk to you through it.
Because each station is a blip of a second,
right? Yeah, if you have it on like one of the faster speeds, you can
Okay.
actually slow it down, so you're actually getting like maybe a full second or two of a station.
All right.
Or you can have it where it's just like constantly just flipping through stations really quick.
And it'd be impossible to have like a sentence come through that because it's going so fast.
Yeah.
So if a sentence does come through, most likely it's going to be something paranormal.
But yeah, there is a possibility with those too. I'd like to go with AM frequencies just because they're not
Less stations.
less
Yeah,
stations, less
that makes
talking.
sense.
On the FM frequencies, there have been times where you'll hear it when it hits the same station every time because you'll hear that song or you hear that DJ talking. They do make things called Faraday bags that you put the SB7 in that's supposed to help eliminate
Oh, I
that
never heard of that.
frequencies coming in from the radio stations. So you're just getting the white noise. I don't know how well those work because I've never owned a Faraday bag. But that's what those supposedly do is cancel out the radio waves, and so you're just getting the white noise.
Okay.
I've had some good experiences in the past. Unfortunately I didn't have mine last night because I borrowed it to somebody and haven't gotten it back yet.
I forgot to bring ours.
Now, there was also in the mill, there was a time where you see it on camera too. They pan over, you see a door open slightly. It's a small door, so it's not like a normal enter exit type of door. It was a smaller cubby type door. I can't even. I don't even know what it was went to. I couldn't find
It
that
looks
door.
like a little cupboard.
I couldn't
like
find
on the
that door in
stairs.
the mill. I don't know if,
What
It's in the basement.
the basement?
In the basement?
Yeah, right where we were. There's that door right there.
Oh, that one.
I've
At
been
the
in
bottom of
that.
the stairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
It's like a little
okay.
crawl space. I've actually investigated back in there before.
Yeah, there's a little guy back there.
Okay. So, did you notice anything from the episode? Did you get any feelies, spidey senses when the door opened on the episode? What do you think or what do you guys think about that?
I think I don't know. I think they tried to debunk it, but I think it's possible. And I didn't go down. I should have did this last night, but I think if you step in the right spot, you might be able to get that door to swing open.
Ah, okay.
You might. I,
was
don't know.
trying,
I don't know.
but
I didn't actually go down and try it. I didn't even think about that until right now.
I couldn't find the door. I didn't realize it was the one in the basement. It makes sense now that you say that. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
I don't know. Just what I've heard about the show and what they do. I know that sometimes they'll create evidence for entertainment purposes. Because honestly, like if you're watching a ghost hunting show, you want something to happen. You're not going
Right.
to watch it if you're not going to watch an hour-long episode where nothing happens.
I know. So
it's possible.
Something's gotta happen.
I didn't feel like something opened the door. I think it might have been because when the door opened, they're not pointing the camera at the door. So I mean, it's entirely possible.
They were
that
panning, and then they had rewinded, and you could kind of
Yeah.
see it opening.
They
Yeah.
well actually they just showed it opened after the fact. They pointed the camera at it, so it is possible that someone off
okay.
screen they could have reached over and just opened the door real quick.
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
saying that's what they did, but I'm saying it's a
possible.
possibility.
Okay. I have a note here too, and I can't remember. You guys are going to remind me. Guy in black in the mill. Did they see a guy in black? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what they said. They see him in the mill. I have honestly never seen a guy in black in the mill, but
Okay.
there are a ton of spirits in that main mill, in the big mill.
Now, last night, did either of you have? I did not, but either of you have some feelies out there or ever experiences?
Yeah,
Let's talk about
so
it.
much in the big mill. That's where I got most of the activity that I had last night. Because
Okay, you were in there quite a while.
Yeah,
I was
Second
thinking about
phase.
going in there.
We
and
even
it was
left and came back, and
hot.
we left and came back, and it was just like the spirit was kind of taunting us, trying to get us to come back in the building.
Why do you say that?
You just feel the energy.
Okay.
Also, with my EMF meter that I have, I don't use the K2. I think you have, excuse me, Ghosty, I think you have a EMF reader similar to mine, where you can have the screen light up green.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't bring that one.
Yeah, so that's the one I use because I find it's easier for me to kind of pay attention to when things are happening. Because the K2 meter, sometimes those lights light up and you don't see it. With this EMF meter, you can have the backlight on so you can see the screen. It has, the milligauss and then temperature as well, and that's another reason why I like this one. But I've got it set up to where if the EMF spikes so much that the screen will light up red instead of green, and it will start beeping at you, so you know that you've got something going on. When we started investigating in the mill with this particular meter, we sat there for quite some time, and it was just kind of going up a little bit. It would be like at 0 for a little bit, and then it might spike up to like 2, maybe 3, milligauss, and then we had a couple times where just randomly, just all of a sudden it's like 4, and it starts beeping and going off, and it was responding to certain phrases or questions that we were asking. And one of the interesting things is we had people that came in and checked on, like they heard us talking, so they'd come up to the second floor, and we were kind of tucked away in a back corner, so we weren't exactly visible. Like if you walked up on the second floor, unless you heard us talking or wandered back to where we were, you wouldn't know we were there. So we noticed when the last person, because we had like Shane came and checked on us, our buddy Mark came in and kind of watched for a minute. But as soon as they left and it was just the 3 of us in the mill, that's when the meter really started going crazy. It seemed like it was just wanting just the 3 of us in the mill, and maybe even less than that. Which is funny because like I felt this energy that was like behind the wall. There was like a little chimney right behind me, and then the next part of the wall was kind of boarded up, and there was like a little hole in the wall, and I could feel someone standing there, and I just kind of leaned around the corner, and I'm like, why are you hiding in the wall? And I thought that might have been the spirit that was kind of like, just started feeling like there was a male presence that was kind of combating her energy, I guess, and was making her feel uncomfortable. So I thought it was the spirit that I was feeling through the wall, and I'm like, dude, follow me outside. I want to see, so these guys can talk to the other spirits, because I thought this spirit was actually keeping the other spirits. There was like a female spirit that kept coming through. I was using my Echovox app on my phone, which is very similar to the SB7, but instead of scanning radio frequencies, they just, from what I've been told, they took The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe and just kind of chopped up the words, and it just kind of cycles through these chopped up words to create the white noise that way. I prefer this over the SB7, to be honest with you. I feel it's a little more accurate, and because I can turn my phone on airplane mode, I'm not getting any frequencies or anything coming through the internet or stuff like that. I'm just getting what's on the app.
Okay.
And so when you actually get voices popping up on this, like full sentences, I find that more believable than the SB7.
That makes sense.
So I left that playing, and I left him with my meter, and I went outside. And the spirit, he didn't follow me outside, but he did follow me to the door. And I had someone's Ghost Meter Pro, and that thing was just lit up red the whole time, like something was tapped into it. But it wouldn't move the needle. It wouldn't respond to any of our questions or anything like that. So I took that with me outside because I wanted to see if I got outside if it would lose the connection, and it didn't. It just kept going and going and going. It finally lost the connection when Kent and Jess came out of the mill.
But it wouldn't move the needle?
It wouldn't move the needle.
That's weird.
And it was tapped into it for a good half an hour, if not more. But yeah, as soon as I guess when I went outside, the spirit that was actually causing that contention with Jess got even more like overbearing, because I might have been, I had a couple of like crystals on me, like selenite and stuff like that, and I think by removing myself from that situation, just to see what would happen, it got a little more intense. They said as soon as I left, they both felt super uncomfortable and not welcome there, so they got up and they came out. And as soon as I saw them, like, because there's on each floor there's a door, and as soon as I saw them by the door on the second floor, that's when the Ghost Meter Pro lost the connection. Like, I even took this thing, I opened up the back, took the battery out, plugged it back in, turned it back on, and still just the connection was there. And I was thinking maybe the battery's dying and it's just, not working right or malfunctioning, whatever. But like I said, as soon as I saw them starting to come out of the mill, that's when it lost the connection. And there was other people that you were using Ghost Meter Pros that had similar things like that happen last night, where their Ghost Meter Pro did the same thing. It was tapped in. It was connected to something. Hers, I actually watched it. It was responding on hers, but she said the same thing. It was just for like a half an hour. It was just tapped in.
Mine would act weird. It would, when I turn it on, it would light up. The needle would move, turn off, light up, turn off, light up, light up, light up, turn off. It does that a lot in high EMF places, I've noticed, and. Yeah, that place, like I couldn't use my K2 really, just because of all the wires and the transformers and stuff and the cell towers. I don't know, whatever's over there is just pumping out so much EMF that it's hard to use some of the regular EMF equipment.
Which is probably why there's so many spirits, right? They're probably feeding off all that EMF that just kind of.
I'm sure they are.
Oh, yeah.
In the big mill, though, it's not really a problem with the EMF meters.
I have a problem with
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with the EMF meters
Really?
in the mill.
Yeah, my K2 just goes crazy all over everywhere. And then you can kind of follow it in certain places, and it gets worse. And just like tipping it up and down, like holding it still in one place, you might just get one little light, and then you just tip it up a little bit, and all of a sudden it'll light up to yellow, tip it back down, tip it up. Yeah, you can play with it. And it's
Mine,
just
we just
everywhere.
had it set on the floor, and like I said, I watched, and it would like sit there at 0 for like a minute or so, and then it would jump up to like 2, and then come back down. But there was only a few times where it would jump up to 4 and actually make the noise. It would change the colors and make the noise. Wasn't very often it did that. So yeah, I do think that there is some EMF running through there because it did kind of bounce between 0 and 2. But I mean, if it was pumping that much EMF the whole time, I would have gotten more than like once or twice where it jumped up to 4. And I guess when I left, it started going even higher. They got it up to 8 after I left. And so we went up. I think we went out to. We were going to the amphitheater next. And on my way, I was passing the pavilion, and Shane grabbed me, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I wanted to show you all my crystals because that's when I do my energy work. I use crystals a lot. I use the energy from crystals to help myself and help the individual that I'm working with. And his collection puts mine to shame. Like I was looking at everything he had laid out, and he had so many
Yeah,
crystals.
Like 4 tackle boxes
Yeah, it was so many, and it was
full
just
of
like
crystals.
it was just the energy coming off of these things. Like he's put together a really good collection, and he's got it set up for like this case is for this on investigations. This case is for this. This case is for this, and he's like got it so organized. I'm kind of jealous. I'm just like it makes me want to actually pull mine out and organize mine. And he's got his labeled and knows what every crystal is and every case, and he can tell you exactly what it is. If I were to pull mine out and you'd pick a stone, and be like, "What's that one?" I'd look at you and be like, "I don't know."
Stop
You
pulling out
told
your-
me.
Stop pulling out your stones in front of other guys.
You like it.
Anything else in the big mill?
Yes, later on when we were closing up. But did you guys get anything in the mail?
We didn't spend too much time in the mill because it was hot.
I really wasn't
so
feeling
damn
anything
hot.
myself.
Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that. So, like I said, the 89 degrees on the thermometer on my meter, right? So at the same time, all three of us just randomly, like we could see the temperature wasn't changing, but we all felt cooler. We felt like an AC had turned on and was cooling down the room that we were in. Because it was like, and at this point, my whole left arm just like started vibrating. The energy was just like, I could feel the shift of the energy. But I just remember Kent's like, "Do you feel that?" He's like, "It actually feels cool in here. It feels comfortable." And we started asking the Echovox, like, "Did you cool the room down? Did you make it feel comfortable for us?" And we got like, yes, they came through that. So one of the
Is it
spirits,
possible for them to do that?
I'm gonna go with yes because that's what it seemed like happened last night.
Interesting.
I know some spirits like they feel cool to the touch, right?
Yes.
So when they touch you, it kind of feels cooler. Some spirits it feels hotter, and I think it's possible that they might have been covering us with their energy or whatever. But
Interesting.
all three of us at the same time, it started feeling cooler. Like it literally felt like the room was cooling down, but we could see the temperature on my meter was staying at 89 degrees.
Okay.
But like once he kind of pointed out, I noticed like I wasn't sweating anymore. Because 90 degrees in this
Yeah.
building, you're kind of sweating a little bit.
Tell me about it.
Like I stopped sweating. Like I felt comfortable in there. Like the temperature, it literally felt like someone turned on a fan or AC or something in this building that has no electricity.
So when you sweat, your hair kind of holds some of that, and that's how you get the oils in your hair. Well, if you're like me and you buzz your head, it just runs right down your face and right down the back of your neck. So yeah, it's not fun.
I was feeling it run down my sides.
That means it came from your pits.
Gross.
Pretty maybe.
Deodorant.
Or
Okay.
my moobs.
You and your smelly balls.
So the temperature. So did the temperature go down, or no? You just felt it go down.
We felt it go down.
Okay.
And we can literally see because I had that thermometer on my EMF meter.
It was still high.
It was 89 degrees.
Okay, interesting.
And we actually watched it. It started at 87, and we watched it slowly climb to 89. And then once it got to 89, it just kind of sat there, and it didn't fluctuate anymore. It just stayed at 89.
Okay. It is interesting that you feel a cool breeze or a coolness.
And we didn't get really anything in the amphitheater. We went to the schoolhouse and didn't really get anything there.
So let's talk about this. We can talk about the schoolhouse. So the schoolhouse is.
At least the second time in the schoolhouse, I didn't get it. The first time when you guys showed up, I think you guys saw me standing outside.
Yes.
We were actually following. There was a spirit that showed up at the schoolhouse and was making Elisa feel uncomfortable, and the children's spirits that they were talking to was making them feel uncomfortable. And when Jess and I kind of noticed, we both went outside, and we can feel like the guy running from us. And that's what we were doing at that time. Is we were kind of tracking him down and kind of trying to keep him away from the school so they could continue investigating.
Okay.
Go on, get
on out of here.
So on the episode, on Ghost Adventures episode, well, they talked about how chalk is supposedly gets thrown in there. They heard a kid's voice on the episode, and you heard it. It was kind of interesting. You hear like a shout or something. I don't know if you guys remember that on the episode.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's like a little shout, sound like a kid's voice, and Benson Grist Mill is near homes and neighborhoods, but
There's
it did
a
sound
soccer field right next to it.
Yeah, the soccer field right next to it. It did sound like it was coming from right where they were at on the episode, anyway. So they heard that, and then there was a point where, okay, it is obviously very hot also inside the schoolhouse, and Aaron was standing outside the door, and then he freaked out and ran inside because he said he looked over and saw a man standing right next to him, right next to him right outside the schoolhouse.
That is actually accurate. There was a man there, and that's the man that I was chasing last night.
Okay, now where does he hang out at the mill?
Near the schoolhouse.
Just kind of just around it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the first time I experienced this particular spirit, we had the door wide open like last night because it's hot as crap in there.
Yeah.
So you have the door open for some airflow.
Crap's
And
got to be like 98.6 degrees.
Yeah, 98.6.
Yeah.
Maybe 100, depending on
If they're sick or not.
Yeah, if you got the vid. Yeah, so door's wide open, and I can feel this guy standing outside getting angry because he was trying to come into the schoolhouse but couldn't.
Okay.
And someone asked me, they're like, well, why is that? And I'm like, well, for him, for whatever reason, the door's closed. It looks like the door's closed to him. And I know things work differently for spirits. Time doesn't exist, so he might be in some sort of plane or something. I don't know. But to him, it looked like the door was closed.
Okay.
So he couldn't get in, and I could feel his frustration. That's the first time I felt that guy. And that's who I believe Aaron saw.
Okay.
So I do believe he actually did see someone at that point.
All right.
This dude wears like a flannel shirt and like kind of like suspenders, like overall type
Oh,
things.
interesting.
And he's drunk. And that's why I think he makes some of the people feel uncomfortable. That's because
Do you know anything else about him, or have you heard anything else about this guy?
No,
Okay.
no one really talks to him.
Okay. He's too belligerent,
Yeah,
obviously.
he's over there not even making sense, I bet.
Probably not. Yeah, we haven't really tried to communicate with that guy. I
Okay.
just know he's there.
Probably
I know
the
he's
one
there.
that makes the Ghost Meter Pro not even answer anything correctly. Just over there being drunk.
Probably. It's like, this moved 7 times.
Did you hear from anyone's experiences in the schoolhouse last night of anything they got, evidence-wise?
I didn't.
I didn't either. It sounded like most people were saying nothing was really... I mean, there was a couple groups that were in there for a long time, but nothing too definitive, it sounded like.
Yeah, no, I know they were getting some responses with their dowsing rods out in there. I don't use dowsing rods much, but I do sometimes. I'll grab like Terry and I'd be like, hey, bring your dowsing rods. I got questions. I didn't bring it with me last night, but normally like what works for me is a pendulum is how I get my responses, and I totally forgot to, like, I've got a little mat and everything that's like got yes and no written on it and maybe, and next time we go into investigation I'll have to remember to bring that and try that out.
Interesting. Now, the schoolhouse is a little ways away from everything else there on the ground, and there's a bridge.
Yeah, there's a bridge you have to go across.
And I've heard there's somebody that kind of guards that bridge.
Yes.
And what have you heard about that? Do you put much validity to that?
Actually, yeah, Brandy and I were the ones that discovered that spirit. Thank you. And I think it's funny. I don't know if I never really heard anybody talk about that particular spirit before Brandy and I started talking about it. she she noticed it first, and then I remember one night that I was there specifically. I closed my eyes, and I started to see like a white outline of a person being drawn in my mind, and I saw like this long, like big headdress. And I know, if I remember correctly, in Native American cultures, the only people that really wore headdresses were the chief, and I believe some of the shamans.
Okay.
So he was definitely someone of importance in his tribe.
All right.
And I forgot to tell people this last night, but I did it a couple times. He's actually a really nice spirit, but he is protecting that side of the bridge over where the schoolhouse is.
Any reason or any knowledge to why?
As far as I can tell,
From the drunkard?
maybe, possibly. But as far as I can tell, from my own experiences investigating and dealing with Native American spirits, when they're put in charge, like in life, like, this is your land, this is what you need to protect, right? They don't feel like death releases them from that charge.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he's still like there.
Still
And
his
I've
job.
actually seen this at people's homes. Our friend Laura that was there last night, she had a Native American spirit in her house that would hang out in the basement. And we were actually able to communicate with him, and he said that to us,
Oh,
if I
okay.
remember correctly, that he was put in charge of watching that land, and death doesn't release him from that charge. It's one of his elders or whatever in his tribe has to be the one that tells him, like, okay, your duty is done. So they continue doing that. From my experience, from my belief, they continue protecting this land that they were put in charge of until someone tells them, like, you're done. So he's there watching his land, and
Okay.
when I cross that bridge, I thank him for letting us come on his land. And you can try it next time you're there. When you're going across that bridge, thank him for being there and feel the difference in the energy as you're walking across.
So me and Ghost kind of made fun of that fact, so I guess that was not a good idea.
I didn't. You did.
Don't put this all on me.
I
got
told
made-
you about it.
You
You
made
made
fun
fun
of
of
for
it.
what?
I just said, I don't remember what I said. Or so Ghosty said, there's supposedly a Native American that guards this bridge, and we were crossing. I guess he doesn't do a really good job, is what I said as I crossed it.
Oh man, what did you feel like? Did you feel anything when you said that?
No.
That's because
Maybe he wasn't there at the time.
you're dead inside. It's possible. I mean, it's not like they just stand in one spot.
But if he's nice, he probably wouldn't attack me just for that statement.
No,
He's like,
no.
Who would have tackled
"All right,
you? Would have
funny
beat
guy."
you with a stick.
No, he probably just kind of like, oh, geez.
Like one of these guys.
Yeah.
So on Ghost Adventures, they went to the schoolhouse. On their way back, there was a long branch,
So staged.
It looked really
That was
staged.
so staged.
and it was
There's a fishing pole here.
yeah, it was because it was a really long stick, and it was leaning against the bridge, like it was like if you were fishing, you put your pole down, right? It was leaning like exactly like that.
I think it's funny when they go back on the camera and they're like, see, you can see it when we're crossing the bridge. It's not there. And it was just like, nope. You totally did not show where it was leaning on your way across.
I think they might have, but
They
there was
might have.
also a tree there, and they came early. I think they came like springtime, so I don't think all the leaves. Like you can tell, like when they were there, some of their pictures, everything was pretty dead at the time. And
I mean,
when we went,
it was cold because they were wearing winter coats and boots
yeah,
and
because I
stuff
think it was
like that, and
April. I
beanies.
think it was like April when they came, or some around that time.
It could have been earlier on because
Yeah,
we
it
didn't
might
really
have
have a winter this year.
It was 2020.
Oh,
So it was March or April of 2020.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they came in 2020, and the episode released like late 2020, I think. So
The Benson Grist, it came out a couple months ago.
did it?
Yeah.
'Cause I saw something when I was trying to like find pictures. I saw something where it showed dates of where they were going to be going. I thought that was in 2020, but
It's possible it was in
Maybe,
2020, but it
yeah.
wasn't released until like 2 months ago.
Right.
okay. I'll have to see that picture if it was 2020 or 2021. Because I don't think they were here just a few months ago.
It could have been 2020. It would have been later in the year if it was because they were wearing masks when they were starting.
Zach
the
always
investigation.
wears masks.
Yeah, but the
No,
whole
this
team was
was
like.
even
So
the people interview.
The three investigators from Utah that were there on the show, they were wearing masks.
That's right.
Jody, who works at Benson Grist Mill, she was wearing a mask.
That's right.
Like everybody had masks on.
So maybe the picture that I saw with the dates was just something a little off. But okay, all right. But anyway, it was a time where it wasn't very full, the branches and trees and everything. So there was a dead tree, not dead tree, but a tree there. I mean, a branch could have fell out of it. Who knows? It's hard to tell. Or yeah, it could have been staged.
I think it was staged. I think
was
they
a-
found the branch and went and set it up there.
Yeah, possibly. Now, outside the big mill,
Well, in your experience as an investigator, have you ever seen something just like manifest like that? Just like show up, especially something that big.
No.
I don't see what kind of sign a spirit would be trying to give with that either. Like, what would be the point of a spirit? Let me just lay this branch.
And hopefully they come back here and see it.
Right?
Yeah, it's
I've been to that location so many times over the years, and I've never seen anything like that.
yeah. It was a little odd. Outside the big mill, there's a little cabin. And Beaker, you were in there for quite a while with some people. Anything happening in there? Because you guys seemed like you were in there for a while.
I was bouncing back and forth between there and I went to the small mill at one point. So we were in there investigating. There was a male spirit that was in there, and I think this one. I know there's one that's always in that. The guy that built that cabin.
Okay.
Usually there in that cabin. But
Okay.
one of the spirits that normally inhabits the blacksmith building had wandered over to that building as well, and was kind of making people feel uncomfortable. There was also a little girl spirit in there. And they brought this, it's called the Boo Bear. You get it from ghostop.com. And it's a trigger
creepy.
object for kids. It's a little teddy bear that it's an EMF meter at the same time. It's got a green light on it, and like if a spirit touches its like hands or feet, those light up. But this one actually talks too. It's one where you can set it down, put a video camera on it, and walk away and see if you can get EVPs. It's just trying to get kid spirits to communicate with this. Yeah, and it's creepy as fuck.
Like the way it talks is just.
Do you want to hold my hand? I like it when my hand's held. The weird one was what really got me, and I know this was completely random, but Mike, who owns the bear, asked, one of the in the schoolhouse asked one of the spirits there if they wanted to hear someone else sing a song, and at the same time he was asking it, the little bear goes, "Do you want to sing with me?" And I'm just like, well, that's creepy. And it's just completely random, like the phrases that it spits out. But the fact that it like said
In
something
sync.
relevant to what we were talking about at the time,
Yeah,
I know, totally coincidental. Just it doesn't make it any less creepy.
Right, yeah. And all these cabins here, they weren't built there, right? They've all been placed there.
Yeah.
Because this
Most
was just a mill, and then at some point they just put these
Historical.
Yeah, they
cabins.
brought a
Right.
lot of cabins and stuff. The barn itself was moved onto the property.
like looking at those. I'm like, it was funny because Ghosty said I couldn't imagine living here if you have like a family of 3 or 4 and you're all in this little cabin. And that's how
like
they lived,
one
know.
room cabins and
No room. It was just 4 walls basically. You're
Yeah,
just inside
it's a
4
room.
walls.
And a stove.
Yeah, and a stove in a
and a
corner. Yeah, no, thank you. Technology.
you've seen the goat sheep cabin or whatever. It looks
Goat
like a little.
sheep
It
cabin?
was it's one of the cabins. Like no one ever investigates this, but it's literally like
Oh,
this-
just the wagon.
the metal.
That's just a
trailer
camper.
thing.
Yeah, that's
The
just a camper.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's so small.
it's very.
So I don't think anyone goes in there because it's metal. And just imagine how hot that thing
Yeah.
would be in the summertime.
Anything else in the other cabins? Did you go in other cabins? Get any?
No, I
Anything?
just went to those like 3 buildings: the schoolhouse, 4 buildings.
Okay.
The big mill, small mill, the Forsyth cabin, and then the schoolhouse. And then
You
the
didn't go to the barn?
When I was locking up, we did a little bit real quick.
Oh.
In the amphitheater, really nothing in any of the other buildings.
Anything from the barn? We can go to the barn now.
Did you go to the barn?
We spent a lot of time in the barn.
What did you get in the barn?
Lots of stuff.
Okay, go. Ready, set, go.
Let me real quick pull up my notes on the barn from there. So they locked Jay, the Ghost Adventures crew, locked Jay in there, and he freaked out and had another episode like he always does.
Yeah, he just like laid down and passed out.
Yeah,
Self defense.
He's literally on the radio, guys.
I'm dizzy.
I
I'm
need
down.
help. I'm down.
And
And,
they
they're
just-
like, okay, cool. And then they just continue
Let
doing
us know how it goes.
Don't die. Talk to you later.
They're like,
I wonder if they're just like sick of his shit.
yeah, because every time Jay's left alone, he just has episodes.
Guys, I'm crying again.
I get my
Stop
episodes.
it.
When Nick Groff used to be on the show, they did all that shit to Aaron. They're like, Like, oh my gosh, this is the darkest room in the whole building. This has got the most evil spirit in there. Aaron, go down there by yourself.
They still do that, but I think they did it because of Aaron's fears, and now he's kind of gotten over some of those fears. So they're like, "All right, now Jay, your turn." Aaron's kind of gotten over some of this.
I would tell you right now, out of all those buildings there, the mill and the barn are probably the only two buildings I would never go in by myself.
I kind of want to be in the barn.
I had the opportunity to. A friend of ours, Paul Welch, a few years back, he was doing a public investigation, sort of. He was doing what he called Alone in the series.
Oh, okay.
So he'd rent public venues, and he did, the first one he did was Alone in the Mill. And he only sold like 4 tickets. So there was only 4 of us there, and we each rotated and each had a turn to be in the big mill by ourselves. I was the only one that was too chicken shit to go by myself. I brought someone with me. But when I did that, the spirit that I talked to only saw me somehow. He didn't see that the other guy was there.
Okay.
And I found out later with the big beard that I have, he thought I was like some sort of prophet, and he actually was like confessing his sins to me, thinking I could help him somehow. And when I talked to him the time after that, I'm like, "You do realize that there was other people in here, and we're using Ghost Meter Pro?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "So you thought I was by myself?" And it's like, "Yes." So I was supposed to be in the mill by myself, and so for whatever reason, that spirit only saw me. He didn't see the person that was with me filming the whole thing.
Oh, interesting. So on Ghost Adventures, they just heard a loud thud when they all were in there together, and then they
barn, I would
locked
not go in the barn
Jay
by
in
myself.
by himself. That's probably the only place that I personally felt a lot of things in the barn. So we actually, like Ghosty and I, and then a few other people would join us. Probably 4 times we were in there then, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So the first time it was so Ghosty brought his friend. Nicole. So the 3 of us went in there at one point. I think it was just the 3 of us at the beginning, and we was kind of checking it out and just kind of walking around. And it wasn't quite dark yet. We just kind of check it out. Now again, the barn and the whole mill, it's a neighborhood around there, right? So you hear cars driving by all the time and people outside talking, and because we had so many people there at the pavilion, still eating and talking, you can still hear people. So you got to kind of take that into account. Anyway, we just kind of checked it out one time. Then we went in another time, just the 3 of us when it was dark, and we were just kind of talking. And so Ghosty, you had a couple of the meters with you. You're the ghost meter, and I was recording you. You actually were getting some responses. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, just because the ghost meter was acting crazy in all the different buildings.
Yeah.
So no matter where we were, every time I turned it on, it was just doing that thing where it was just like connecting, disconnecting, connecting, disconnecting. And then when it would stop doing that, it would just stay connected. And then, so I would keep turning it off and then turning it back on again till it wasn't doing that. And then I would wait for it to get connected, and then that's when I would try to communicate. But when the spirit I was communicating with, it seemed to be this spirit of this teenage girl who I would always communicate with when I go there. Mm-hmm. But it ended abruptly, ended quick, and then I never connected with her again the rest of the night. But then anytime it did connect, it just seemed like it would just answer sporadically and not make any sense. And so for the most part, yeah, I just wasn't using it much.
Tell an episode of one time you went in there with your ex and Brandy.
So in the barn, there is a negative spirit up on the top level.
Okay, and they felt that on the Ghost Adventures.
Yeah,
too. They kind of felt
did
something up there as well.
Talk about that on the episode, and I picked up on it first time going in there, and with Brandy being with us, I was able to ask her, and she was able to validate it, and trying to get it to perform like a monkey. I was telling it to do things and seeing if it could do stuff.
That one actually will sometimes.
It did. So when I was trying to kind of provoke it to show what kind of things it can do, it just seemed very coincidental, if it was coincidental, that when I asked it to do something like that, couldn't tell if it was wind. I didn't really hear any wind, so I don't know if it was wind. But it just seemed like the whole upper level of the barn flexed. Just,
Okay.
like you could feel it, and like moved, and my ex went running out of there like, oh, F this, I'm out.
Now, was the door open? Was the barn door open?
Yeah.
Okay, so last night there was a little bit of a breeze coming through. You could feel that breeze. So if it and nothing was moving inside from the breeze. So if there was a strong gust of wind that maybe made the whole upper level kind of flex or bend all the wood, you would have felt it through that open door then, because we could feel the breeze coming through.
Yeah, probably then, yeah.
So just to kind of debunk the idea of a strong wind gust coming through.
But yeah, so that was pretty substantial when that happened.
Yeah, I bet. Freaked her out.
We've had another time I was in the mill with Paul a couple years back. There was a little kid in there along with that negative spirit. And I was talking to the little kid and be like, you don't have to listen to this guy. He's not your friend. And I'd probably have it on video somewhere. I know Paul had it on an EVP or on his audio recorder. But as I'm talking to this little kid, you can feel
You mean
it
in the barn?
Yeah, in the barn.
Okay, you kept saying mill.
Oh, the barn. Sorry. You could hear like it. It got angry, and you could tell because it started stomping. Like you could hear it stomping around on the top floor, and we know no one's up there. Like you have to climb a ladder to get up there, and that's just an off limits area. Like,
Yeah.
we don't let anyone go up into the upper part of that barn, and you could hear it stomping around upstairs. You can hear it like started on one end, and you can hear it walk to the other side of the barn. We actually, like I said, I probably have it on video somewhere. I don't know where. I'd have to go look. I know Paul got it on his audio recorder.
Oh, interesting. So I know when Ghosty and I were doing this with the ghost meter, and it seemed like he was communicating with this female spirit. When coming from behind, so we left the barn door open because again it was really hot. So we left the barn door open. We could hear the Raymonds coming up. They were kind of there's some pebbles outside. You can kind of hear them walking up. And I think that noise kind of distracted Ghosty, but I can't remember if Nicole heard it as well. But there was also a loud noise in the far corner. So the entrance, the barn door entrance is in one corner. So just think of it in one corner. It was opposite corner, and there was a loud noise. And so Ghosty didn't hear it because I think he was distracted by their footsteps coming up.
No, I heard it.
Oh, you did. Oh, you
Yeah,
did
I
hear
told
it.
you I heard it.
Oh, okay, you did hear it. Okay, so we heard a loud noise. Sounded like it was coming from inside, and so when we left, the Raymonds stayed inside, and we just kind of asked them, what was your experience? Or I think we came in at one point to just kind of check on them, and they said they also heard a loud noise in the corner. And what was his name? The husband's name?
Josh.
Josh. And he said he could kind of see a shadow head kind of peeking around, and his wife says, "Are you sure it's not from the shadows? Because again, cars are driving by and headlights are on." And he's like, "No, lights are going by. I can see like a head popping in and out, a shadow head popping in and out." And then at the end, they said they did hear footsteps up there as well when they came out. So when they told us that, we were like, let's go back in there then. So Ghosty and I myself and also Caden and his guests, and who else was with us? Lurch.
Yeah.
And Lurch came in, and we turned the Echo Vox on. They said, let's play with the Echo Vox. And Lurch came in with the whole thought of, let's provoke this thing.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
he's all
Typical Lurch. He's not really afraid of the spirits.
No.
He doesn't let that fear get a hold of him, and because he knows it gives him power.
Right.
It gets, more negative spirits, anyways.
Yes.
So he just goes in with kind of a lighthearted attitude, like, I'm going to poke fun because
Yeah.
I know I'm stronger than you and you can't do anything.
And I was kind of down with that, so I kind of threw a couple shots in there myself, a couple jabs myself.
man.
But I kind of liked the idea to see if we get something. We had the Echo Vox going.
Did it swear at you?
Oh,
'Cause
it dropped F-bombs,
The
very clear. So again,
Spirit in the mill was dropping F-bombs too. On
oh
the
really?
Xbox,
So
yeah.
again, the Echo Vox is a chopped up version of the Raven, and it's it's blipping through. So to hear a sentence come through, and we heard sentences come through through the Echo Vox.
Well, and you're hearing the F-bomb. If you've read the Raven, there's no swears in the Raven.
And Caden seems to have been dealing with a demonic entity in homes. And he's kicked this demonic entity out of, he said, 5 homes already. Jeez. And it has followed him to the mill and into the barn. And you could hear a female spirit and then a male voice coming through the Echo Vox, which they said she's got some a little male that follows her. Nicole. Nicole is actually the demon's name. Also, Dale's friend who he brought. So I'm trying to. They're not the same.
Are you sure?
I don't think.
I mean, those dates were really good.
So.
Not devilishly good.
So this demon also has a male little. I don't know if it's also a demon or.
I'd say an
just
imp.
There we go. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that kind of follows her around, and then also the male negative entity that's in the barn that's always already there is also in there. At one point, it sounded like it said there was 8 spirits in the barn through the Echo Vox.
Which is a lot more than normal.
Yeah, I don't
There's
think
only
there
like
was.
one
I
or
don't think
two.
there was like.
I don't
Yeah,
think
there's
there
usually
was.
like 1 or 2. Yeah.
So, but it could have been we just misheard, or it just was a blip that sounded like the number 8.
Or
You
did
gotta-
you have
gotta
8
keep that.
people in there? Or did you have like 5 people and 3 spirits?
Oh, we actually have 3, 6, 7. There are 7 of us. There are 7 of us in there.
Yeah, if there's 7 and then 1 spirit, it might have been counting everybody, living and dead.
Yeah, possibly. So possibly, definitely, there's 3 spirits in there though. So this demon, it's imp, and then the guy that's always in the barn. And
It's also inhuman. He's not a.
Yeah.
oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
to
it's
know.
an inhuman.
All right. And at one point, Lurch said he's like, "Did you hear that growl?" He thought he heard a growl. I didn't hear a growl. I heard more of like a rumble, like maybe something, like if you had like a sheet of metal and kind of shook it, how it would make like a little rumble
Like a
noise.
thunder. Rah.
Yeah, how they make that thunder noise. I heard something. It sounded kind of like that, and so
That's
yeah.
what thunder sounds
Yeah.
like. When I hear thunder, it's like rah.
Roar.
so we both heard that. Did you hear that, Ghosty? That noise?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
That was actually he farted.
It sounded like
Maybe.
if something hit like a hollow metal thing a couple
Yeah,
times, like
yeah.
something just kind of double tapped it. That's what it sounded like. Mm-hmm. That's
hell was that?
my dog's crying because I
Oh.
locked him up because somebody had to make him jump off the bed.
He would have done it anyway. So if you hear a little squeaking noise, that's Ghosty's dog crying.
My ghost dog.
So yeah, what other things were coming through the Echo Vox? I mean, there were sentences we couldn't understand what they were saying, but it was a sentence
I
coming
mean,
through.
so it was like swearing at us.
He dropped F-bombs like 3 or 4 times.
That happens to Lurch.
Yeah.
I love that dude. I'm so glad he made it last night.
What else? I'm trying to think what else. It's hard sometimes. Like Caden seemed to have gotten to hear things, but also, Caden's a medium, so he might hear things a little bit more clear than we can through that Echo Vox.
I was kind of bummed. I was so focused on investigating with Kent because I'd never investigated with him before. I was like, oh, I didn't get to see Kate.
Yeah,
And
the barn was interesting. And then at one point, actually, the reason why we left the barn was Caden was like, he jumped out because he said he felt a burning. And we look and you can kind of see like maybe possibly 2 scratches on his neck. He pulled his shirt down and you can see red marks. So I actually have a picture of that. I'll post it on our social media. I'll post
Yeah,
that
so he
picture.
pulled it down and you couldn't really see much at first because it just had happened.
He said he felt a burning.
Yeah, and then waiting for a little bit, you did see a couple red lines that make a little V shape. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was just right here on the bottom of his neck by his collarbone.
Yeah. So, and also Caden was provoking it as well. I should say, it's like, I'll kick you out of here, and if you don't bother these people, if you go bother these people again, I'll kick you out again. I'll do it, so yeah, it was that was a pretty interesting one. I did record. I think we got like 12 or 13 minutes of this session. I tried to record from the Echo Vox, so I'm gonna try and listen to it, see if I can pick up on some of these things.
I think it's funny. It's so different how I was investigating. You guys are like, I'm going to kick you out and roar. And I'm over on the other side of the grounds. What can I do to help you?
Touch my
Do you-
butt.
do you need help? No, that's Ghosty.
I don't welcome it all the time.
And then the 4th time, I think we were just kind of wrapping up, and so Ghosty, myself, and his friend Nicole also went back into the barn. I said, let's just sit in there and just record. And so Ghosty and I just asking questions like, do you know you're dead? Do you like it here? And then my favorite question, do you like ice cream? And so
No matter what age, time, frame you came from, everyone loves ice cream.
everyone loves ice
Well,
cream.
especially
It's a
if they're from
timeless
Utah.
treat.
So
Especially if they're from Utah, the state that consumes more ice cream and Jello than any other state. At least at one point in time. I don't know if that's still true or not.
So I did the classic shave and haircut bit once again.
I
So-
still need to find that. and upload it to our social
From
media.
Family Tree.
Yeah.
So we're sitting. We actually were sitting down for this. I think we were recording. I think I got like 11 minutes of us recording in there, or 8 minutes. And so we're sitting in these like steel folding chairs. And so I just said, "Hey, do you know Shave and Haircut? Can you finish this?" So I do the typical, and then you hear one knock respond. So not the you didn't finish it correctly, but Ghosty and I heard one knock.
Just set that anywhere.
And as I was reviewing, listening to it, so you can hear me say, "Hey, do you know Shaving a Haircut?" And as soon as I do my part, right when you hear the knock coming in, a gust of wind comes through and it
Drowns
distorts,
it out.
it drowns it out.
Was it a gust of wind or did a spirit blow?
No,
into
because I
your recorder?
remember feeling wind. Like I said, you can feel the breeze coming into the barn. That's what I'm saying with
So you
Ghosty.
just had the mic pointed right at it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, like I
I
said,
mean, it's cooler if you say a spirit was like sabotaging the EVP and blew
yeah,
into
I
it.
know.
But
I'm
we're
gonna
not
be
going to
real.
fabricate
No.
things here.
So that's why I'm saying, like with Ghosty's experience, where he thinks there's a strong gust of wind or a spirit made that whole barn flex, you would have feel a big gust of wind because this breeze. You can feel the breeze. It felt nice.
And
you
there's
know?
a lot of cracks in the walls too,
Yeah.
especially upstairs. Like
Yeah.
where one of the spirits, I've actually seen it pacing back and forth through the upstairs of the barn.
Oh, interesting.
Because there's a lot of cracks in the
Right.
boards.
You
There's
see
a
that
lot of
moonlight come in?
gaps, and so you can see the moonlight coming in. And when that all of a sudden is just gone
Yeah.
for like a split second, like you can see that spirit sometimes up there pacing.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, it's what you're saying is I'm just kind of adding more validity
Yeah.
to what you're saying. Like you're gonna feel a breeze coming through there because
Right.
not only is that door huge when you have it open, it's just a huge opening in the side of the building.
Yeah.
You've got all of those cracks through because this is a wooden barn, so you're gonna feel that wind as it's coming through.
And we were all kind of when we were inside the barn, we were all around the open door, obviously because it was very hot, so it was nice to have that little, breeze coming in. But all the knocks and noises were all coming from the opposite end where we weren't standing, because probably that's where they felt comfortable standing away from us. But anyway, the shave and a haircut bit worked once again. We just didn't get the audio because of the breeze at the exact same time.
Dub breeze.
That breeze. So yeah, interesting investigation last night.
Yeah.
Fun times.
When I was locking up.
Yes, go on.
So Kent's like, he'd had my EMF reader the whole night.
Okay.
And he's like, how much you want to bet it won't do anything if we go back up to the barn? And I go, okay, let's go.
Okay.
So we go back up to the barn and just standing on the porch outside, you could feel how heavy the energy was coming out of that building. And I kind of laughed a little bit and I'm like, hey, Kent, stand in the doorway.
Now, do you think that energy is because they're bothered? Because we've been investigating it for like 3 hours at this point, and people
No,
are coming
there's-
in and talking, and they're probably just getting tired
this
of
particular
everybody.
spirit he's an ass.
Okay.
He's what we used to call, or you could still call, like a type 2. He's a negative human spirit because he can be.
Mm-hmm.
He's a jerk.
And he was probably like that when he was alive.
Yes. Because the way you are when you're alive, your personality doesn't change when you die. You don't just suddenly become a different person.
Okay.
So he gets off on trying to scare people.
Oh.
And this particular spirit, and I know Ghosty has been with me. It's like I think you were there. And
I had to yell at him.
when we picked up on it, that like it wanted me to go down into the basement so he could try to trip me.
Yeah.
And like injure me going into the basement.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of run-ins with this spirit.
I was just about to ask you if it was that same one.
It's the same one. Yeah, it's when this spirit really started hating me. We were on an investigation, and our friend Laura was there. There's so many Laras that we know. One of the Laras was there, and it was harassing her. And I felt it, and I thought it was like a negative inhuman spirit. Found out after the fact it was a human spirit. Regardless, he's been a jerk. And I got firm with him, and I'm like, you need to leave her alone and stop harassing her. I was told later to stop doing that to people. Because, it's going to rob people of their experiences while they're investigating. But I did that because that's just the type of person I am. I'm very protective of the people that I bring with me. I'm very protective of my friends. So when I tell this spirit to leave her alone, it pissed him off. And so every time I'm there, he takes pleasure in trying to harass me now.
Yeah.
So I could feel his energy. It was seething out of the building. I tell Kent, stand in the doorway. And he's like, he didn't think anything was going to happen. He thought the meter was just going to stay at zero because after we left the mill, as we walked around the whole grounds, it was zero the entire time. We didn't get any spikes on it at all. Just walking around in the amphitheater, in the schoolhouse, nothing. It did nothing. We walked back up to the porch. It's jumping up to like 3 and 4 again. And I go, hey, stand in the doorway. And he's like just outside or in the threshold? And I'm like, yeah, the threshold's fine. He stands, as soon as he steps foot in the doorway, it jumps up to 8 on the EMF meter, and it starts, flashing and making noises and stuff like that. And I watched him standing there, and he literally started teetering like it was trying to pull him into the building. And he's like, yeah, I'm good. And he stepped back out. And at this point, Jess walks back up to join us. And she's like, anything? And it just starts beeping and going off again. So we went back into the mill. And we were sitting down on the bench. At one point, I pulled out some of my crystals, one that had obsidian and selenite, and I handed it to Kent. And I'm like, here, hold these. I want to see if it makes you feel better. And it did. And as we're sitting there, nothing going on. The whole time he was holding my crystals, nothing on the meter, right? He's like, oh, I want to try something, Tim. Here, take these back. And he handed them back to me. And almost instantly, the meter started going off again. As soon as he handed me the crystals. And I'm just like, Jess is like, I'm going to go stand outside for a second. Because we were both kind of testing something. She had pinpointed where the spirit was before I did. She pointed it out, and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so there's a little bench in there on the first floor. She went and stood in the doorway of the mill. I went and stood at the top of the stairs to the basement. And we kind of separated ourselves from Kent, and the meter just started going crazy again. At this point, we realized that the spirit was actually sitting... Because the stairs go up, there's like a little landing. It turns 90 degrees and goes up some more.
Yep.
So he was sitting just on top of the landing. So Kent actually walked over with the meter, and it went from getting just the spikes up to like 2, maybe 3, to actually getting up to like 8 and 9. And at this point, it's time to close up. I think that's when I came out, and you're like, you asked me about closing up, so... We started locking the doors. I went and asked if we had to lock all the doors on the mill, and she's like, oh, they're all open? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, yeah, they all need to be closed. So there's a door on each floor. I mean, there's like, fences or screen doors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
open them because it was hot as hell in there.
So, yeah. So we went to the top floor first, and I've actually had an experience before. I was talking to Mike last night about it. And there was
Fell
actually...
out of that building.
I didn't fall out of the building, no. Someone else did.
Oh, gosh.
The long time ago, one of the spirits that's still there was actually thrown out of the window on the top floor.
Oh, wow.
That was the spirit that confessed his sins to me. He was, I can't remember if it was him that was thrown out or if he threw someone out.
Oh.
But someone, from what I've gathered during my investigation, someone was actually thrown out of the top floor and thrown to their death, basically.
I don't know if you can look that up.
I don't know if it's, maybe.
I'll try.
That's just kind of what I got from investigating. Anyways, I've had an experience before where walking up those stairs, it literally felt like I was walking through mud. Like it was thick. The energy was so thick, but just for me. And I was remembering that. I thought it was Caden that was with me, but I guess it was our friend Mike and a different guy named Mike. And when this started happening, they actually kind of put me in between the two of them to kind of help me up and down the stairs because I was having a hard time. This is how thick the energy was. This spirit really does not like me. And I had told Kent and Jess about that and didn't think much of it. We're going up to the top floor. They went up first to the second floor, and they kind of noticed I was walking slow, and they both stopped, and they're like, are you all right? Like, before they even saw me walking slow, they're like, hey, Tim, how you doing? You all right? I'm like, yeah, you remember me telling you, like, walking through mud that one time? I'm like, it's happening again, because I literally was like having a hard time walking up the stairs, and it was interesting because Jess got behind me and she's like, here, let me push some of my energy at you. And as soon as she did that, that feeling went away. I was able to just walk normal again, but it literally felt like I was walking through just a big like pool of mud. We get to the top floor, we're closing the door, and my meter, I've never seen it spike this high before, but my meter jumped up to like 24.
Whoa.
And I know the K2 only goes to 20. So this is picking up more than what the K2 would actually pick up. Like it was constant red as we were closing the building down. It spiked up to like 24. It kept bouncing between like 8 and 14, 8 and 16. But yeah, as soon as I closed that first door on the top floor, it spiked up to 22, 24, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And it was just constant as we were closing up the building, constant, just beeping red, going all sorts of crazy. As soon as we got outside, it died down.
That's weird.
And it wasn't until I actually, because we got to the top floor, and it wasn't just like, I think it was still green when we actually got to the top floor. As soon as I started closing that door, it spiked huge. And it did something similar in the barn. Like, we locked up, walked around, made sure everything was locked up. The barn was one of the last things I locked. And it was funny because I did the same thing. I'm like, hey, Kent, stand in the doorway. He's like, okay. He stands in the doorway and he's like, oh, nothing. He's like, oh, it's about 2, 3. And as he's standing there, I don't think he realized this, but Jess and I both started slowly walking away from the barn, leaving him by himself. And he's like, I'm going to go in just a little bit further. He took like one step in. It jumped up to like 16.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I'm out. Turned around and came back out. And we shut and locked up the barn from there. But yeah, it was, I had a lot of fun last night.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I can't wait to go back.
So just kind of reading real quick. I couldn't find anything about specifically deaths from the mill. I did see in 2009 there was a head-on crash right outside of the mill where 3 young people died right outside. And then I know on Ghost Adventures I talked about it, and it's kind of known there was also a young girl that had drowned right outside the mill. Was her family? Do we know if the family worked there or they just lived nearby and she just was playing?
I think they lived nearby.
She was just kind of playing by the water, and
I guess
she
there's
drowned.
like a pond nearby that she drowned in.
Yeah, so I guess there was.
And that one I believe is actually documented. I think someone
Yes.
says they looked it up, and that one actually.
Yeah,
did
that one. That one. I think that's the only one that's documented. But no employees or anything, because these are big machines. I thought at some point maybe somebody had fallen in or something, but nothing I could find just from a quick search.
Yeah, it's there's so many spirits there, and some of them came with the buildings that were relocated to there.
Yeah.
Some of them are former
Wandering
employees of the
around.
mill. Spirits just wandering around. Yeah, I mean,
Feeding off that EMF energy.
EMF and buildings. For some reason, spirits like to be in buildings. Even though they don't need them, they like them.
so
the
yeah.
feeling of shelter.
We touched a lot on like what we did last night. We've touched a little bit on other investigations. I've seen so much stuff. I've been there so many times. I've seen so many things there that I haven't even mentioned yet.
Are you going to?
I could.
Like something like significant that really stands out, maybe.
Okay, so 2 things real quick.
Okay, I like this.
So, and I'm not the only one that's seen this. There is a really large inhuman spirit that hangs around by the fire pit, and I think he goes back into the ruins.
Where's the fire pit?
So the fire pit is if you know how we walked down past the small mill to get to the will
Yes,
to
yes.
do our reenactment photo.
Yes.
Instead of going down to the left, you go to the right because there's like that bridge
In the
there.
grass.
But if you
okay.
turn right, and it's kind of grown over at this point, they haven't like cleared it out. But if you go right instead, there's a little fire pit down there.
Okay.
And I haven't investigated there in a while. That's the barn, the fire pit, and the mill are probably the most like negative areas on the
Interesting.
grounds.
Okay.
So there was one time I was investigating the fire pit. We had a little small group going there, and the branches kind of hang down low at this point. It's probably about 7 feet from the ground. It was a little bit taller than me because I didn't have to duck to go underneath these branches. Excuse me. And I'm sitting there, we're just kind of talking, and I see this large, massive, I don't know if you've seen like a shadow, like as you're investigating, it's dark, right?
Yeah.
And you see like the darkness get darker.
Okay.
I've only seen this a couple times, but this one very clear. Like I could see this like dark mass, and it looked like it was crouched down and kind of like crawling towards the fire pit.
Oh, weird.
And at this point, like I
Like
said,
army crawl?
no, like more like kind of like crouch, like sneaking crawling.
Like on
I
all
guess.
fours?
Just crouch down.
Just doesn't
Okay.
crouch down, just kind of
Being sneaky.
crouching like sneaking, right?
Okay.
And it's crouched down. His head was almost to the branches, which is about 7 feet.
Oh, jeez.
If not, maybe a little shorter, but somewhere in there. This was crouched.
It's a giant.
It was
This
a
is like
squatch.
in a crouched position. And I noticed a couple other people that were like looking in that direction as well. And I'm like, do you see it too? And they're like, yeah, there's something over there. I'm like, yeah, it's like he's crouched down, crawling towards us. And as soon as we pointed it out, it took off. And I know several people have seen this. Standing tall, it's about 9 feet tall.
When
This
you
thing
say it
is
takes off,
huge.
do you see like shrubbery move?
No, I just saw the shadow go.
Okay.
Like
okay.
it got less dark, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Like the light itself lightened up. Like it was like,
Okay.
I mean, you could still see a little bit like moonlight coming through, and all of a sudden you're not seeing the moonlight. You're seeing this black mass like
Okay.
coming towards
Almost
you,
like it dissipates.
and then you see it turn and go the other direction.
Oh, okay.
Shadows don't do that.
Okay.
You know, it's yeah. And like I said, this thing, people have described it when it's standing fully erect. It's like 9 feet tall.
Interesting.
Yeah. Boners.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Another one that's actually happened in the fire pit as well.
Okay.
So you know,
I don't even know, but I didn't remember this. For next time, check out this fire pit.
So I told you about the spirit that one of them was like thrown out the window to their death, right?
Yes.
So I think, in my opinion, this is what happened. I think the spirit reenacted his death. So we're standing in the fire pit, and two of us saw it. So it wasn't just me that saw this, but I don't give a whole lot of stock to orbs and photos and stuff like that, because it could be there's so many things it could
Yeah.
be. It could be dust, water molecules, whatever. This thing was big enough to where it was on top of the mill, and it was like it. The best way to describe it is the size. It was probably like the size of like a semi tire. Like this thing was huge.
Okay.
You know, the size of like a body, like
Okay,
a person. Like,
yeah.
But it was this big bright light, and it just manifested on the top of the mill, and went one direction. Like it was moving. Like it started at the back of the mill. It was moving towards the front of the mill. Kind of came down a little bit, and then just shot to the back of the mill again.
Interesting.
And then was gone. And I, like I said, I wasn't the only one that saw this. There was two of us that saw it.
Interesting.
And you know where where that mill that this is on the I want to say north side of the mill, like because the fire pit, like I said, is on the other side. You got the mill, the small mill, and then the fire pit. So it was on the side between the mill and the small mill. We saw this on the side of the building, kind of go one direction, drop a little bit, and then shoot off back in the direction it came from.
Oh, interesting.
And I've never seen anything like that before. Like I've seen cars and stuff drive by, and the cars are on the other side of the building. So there's really no way for especially on the top with how tall that building is. There's really no way for a light to just
Sure.
show up right there on the top of the building.
That is
So in
pretty
my
interesting.
opinion, it was like, and I've kind of seen this before at some other places too, but it just seemed like the spirit was kind of reenacting his death of being thrown out the window.
Interesting. You saying that actually reminded me of something when Ghosty, myself, and his friend Nicole were actually in the barn by ourselves. I actually looked outside, because there's a lot of people out investigating. I kind of looked outside, and what it looked like to me was next to this that steel camper trailer we talked about.
Yeah.
What did you call it again?
Camper.
Oh, I thought you called it something. But
I was gonna call it something else, but like a camper cabin thing.
yeah,
It's a camper trailer.
Next to it is another cabin, wooden cabin, and I thought I saw a shadow person standing there and walk off the edge of the roof. And I saw that, I turned around, I like looked back to see everyone. I saw that, and I looked back in the barn. I said, "Wait a minute, what did I just see?" And I looked back, and I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know if my eyes played tricks from a car driving by with headlights, and it was casting a shadow of one of the investigators up on the, I don't know, but it was a little interesting. It looked like a shadow person standing on the roof of it and walk off the edge of it. It took like I saw a step being taken.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I'm like, wait, was somebody on a trail? And it looked like it was near the roof. So when I did a double check, I'm like, I don't know, but it just seemed like that. It was very interesting.
Yeah, we're going a little bit long on this one. I think it's okay because we
Okay.
didn't have an episode last week. So, there's one more thing. That last time I was there, last potluck I did at
Okay.
the end of last year, I remember after all was said and done, Caden, his wife, and I and Mark were all standing in the parking lot talking. And I remember this very clearly. This scared me.
Okay.
Like, this really scared me. I jumped. We were standing there talking, and I hear this loud, like, popping noise.
Okay.
Like, I thought, like, the transformer nearby, like, because, like, when electricity pops.
Yes,
like,
yeah, that
like
kind of
lightning,
noise.
like,
Got
pop.
it,
Like,
right.
it was loud,
Yeah.
right? And it startled me, and I jumped. And before I knew what was going on, Mark was, like, right there, jumped in and grabbed me and started yelling, and he's like, "You need to leave him alone, knock it off right now." And I saw Caden doing his thing, kind of pushing his energy, and, like, they both like surrounded me, like protecting me, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? After talking to these guys, Mark said at the same time, like he said, my facial expressions was changing, and I didn't realize, like, I didn't know anything was going on. I hear the popping noise. I jumped. Mark was like, before I even heard the popping noise, and before I jumped, he was already reaching to grab my shoulder. He said he could literally feel the energy starting to shift. He felt that change. And I believe Caden did as well. And they both just like jumped right into action because, like I said, I hear that popping noise and it was loud. Like I said, I thought the transformer blew or something like that.
Right.
So I'm like looking around, trying to figure out what that noise was. And these two guys are they jumping in, like I said, Mark yelling at the spirit, telling it to leave me alone. Caden like pushing his energy, trying to shield me or whatever he was doing at the time. And at that point, we're just like, okay, I think we had Mark say a prayer real quick, and then we just got in our cars and left. We got out of there.
So, what was happening then?
So I kind of got the feeling. I got home, and I knew Caden was still awake, and I texted him, and I'm like, dude, why do I get the feeling that no one else heard that popping noise? He's like, because we didn't.
Okay.
He's like, there was no popping noise.
Interesting.
And I'm like, okay.
Getting goosebumps.
So the next morning, I sent Mark a text, and I'm like, did you hear any popping noise? And he's like, no, but I did feel the shift in the energy. And so at this point, I'm like freaked out because I think my eye ovulus kind of helped freak me out because it said like beast and like, I don't put a whole lot of stock into this app because it does spit out random words. Sometimes they're relevant, but it said something like beast, and I can't remember what the other word was, but it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And then as I started digging and trying to figure out what actually happened, there was that spirit, the one that follows me around and doesn't like me because I protect other people from him.
Okay.
He found a way to penetrate my energy field, my butt. He does that to you. He saves himself for you. No, he somehow managed to like get in my energy field.
Okay.
And that's what I heard, him tearing my bubble, basically.
Oh.
That's why I'm the only
cherry popping.
He popped my cherry. That was the first time, so I've never experienced that before. So I didn't know what was
it
going
magical
on.
for you?
It was very magical for me. I asked Brandy if she knew what was going on, and she explained it to me. That's what happened is he basically, like, sometimes there's shielding. You've heard of shielding, right?
Yes.
A lot of people, you just imagine like a white bubble of light around you to protect you from negative spirits, right? I kind of do that, but not like intentionally. Everyone has like an innate like protective barrier. Everyone's got their energy field. Everyone puts off some sort of energy, and this particular spirit was able to. I never give spirits permission to use my energy.
Okay.
I've heard people do that. They're like, you can use my energy to power the equipment or whatever, trying to get the K2 to go off. I don't do that. I don't offer up my energy because I need it for what I do for protecting other people. So this, from what I was told, and I believe this to be true, this was this spirit invading my personal bubble.
In your
basically.
space.
He was getting into my space without my permission.
Stranger danger.
Which is why I heard the popping noise. He was pretty much popping my bubble.
Interesting.
Or my cherry.
As Ghosty refers it to.
Yes.
Oh,
He popped
yeah.
my cherry. All right. Stop. Don't touch me there. That is my no-no square. He didn't follow the rules. Yeah, no, I was like, it kind of freaked me out. Before I figured out what was going on, like, finding out I was the only one that heard that loud popping noise.
That is weird, yeah.
That just had me freaked out even more because I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, so many experiences there. And I love going to that place.
And thanks again for renting it out for us. Appreciate it.
And we're going to be doing it again in September.
All right.
All right. So you're going to have to bring Nicole again.
Make some of that.
Or the dates, whichever one.
Well,
Bring Nicole and bring me a date. And dates.
done.
I need a girlfriend.
Done and done.
You can find me at Tinder. No, just kidding. So
Find him on Grindr.
find us. Yes.
If you want to
man.
pop
Yes, guys.
bubbles,
Guys, find me on Grindr. Isn't that a sandwich?
Sure.
yeah, they'll eat it. I'm sure they will.
Oh gosh. Yeah, so we are a little bit longer. We're an hour and a half ish. somewhere in there, which is okay.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have an episode last week, so you get more of us this week.
Yes.
Yay! I've got stories for the next episode. We have some listeners that have reached out to us. They love the podcast. They love that I left the other podcast and started this one because this one is much more entertaining.
Obviously.
I hope so.
It's funny because when people I had a couple people text me. They're like, I'm sad you're not on that show anymore. It's not as fun without you. And I'm like, oh, well, did you know? Here's the link to my new podcast.
Nice.
And one of the guys that did that when I told him about the new podcast, he's texts me every now and then to just tell me how much he loves the show. So,
great.
His name is Zachary.
Thanks, Zachary.
Thanks, bud.
He actually lives in, I believe, Missouri.
Okay.
So he actually was one of the listeners that followed from the other podcast to this podcast. He loves the show. Thanks for listening. He does have some experiences that we can share on a future episode.
Oh, great.
We also have that email I was telling you guys about last week.
Yes.
I did hear back from her. She has given us permission to use her story on the show.
Great.
And she has a lot more stories.
Awesome.
I'm not going to reveal her name or where she lives or anything like that. She has asked for us to be discreet on that stuff like that. So if you do have a story, feel free to share it with us. You can reach us at evp.pod@gmail.com. Also on the social medias at Instagram and Facebook, it's the evp.pod.
Yep.
You can message us on either one of those platforms or the email. Email, pretty much I'm the only one that checks that, but on the social medias, all three of us check that. So we are checking it, though. The emails come straight to my phone. So when you send us an email, I see it right away.
Awesome.
And then the Instagram and the Facebooks you guys see as well. So, yes, we will be very discreet. We won't reveal any information you don't want us to reveal. If you have stories that you want to share, we would love to tell the stories. We would love to share your experiences.
Absolutely.
So feel free to hit us up, and we will, if you want us to talk about those. Or even if you just want to tell us about your experience and just want us to know and you don't want us to share it, do that too.
Yeah.
Or even if you just want to say hi.
Yes. If you want to say hi. If you have a question that you want us to answer on the show, anything, hit us up. We'd love to hear from you.
Or if you need our help investigating for whatever reason, also feel free to hit us up.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching, listening, whatever you're doing. Thanks for being with us.
Peace out, butterflies.
Ghosty out.
Sayonara.
This is the EVP Podcast.